Hi guys, welcome to another one of my videos. And surprisingly enough, I'm really excited to get into this particular talk because September was just such an interesting month when it comes to the books that I read. Genuinely, it just goes to show how much I don't know when I'm first talking about the books. Like, it's so obvious. That was definitely the case in September. I mean, I knew nothing about the books that I was going to be reading, and I was so surprised. So, I don't know, I wouldn't even know how to describe my own feelings over this whole month of September. So, we've definitely got to talk about it, and we will get into that just real quick. If you're new to my channel, and you're watching, just a tiny bit about myself. I am a avid reader. I love to read. Books have been my life for a very long time. They were my escape. I watched so many booktube people reading books and talking about books and describing books. But see, here's the thing. Most of those people are in their early to late 20s, okay? I'm in my 40s. And there's a difference. I'm not saying that people in their 20s can't like the same books that us older women do. That's not the case. But we do view things differently. But I'm not just an older reader. I am also a mom. Okay? I've got a grown daughter. I've got two little boys. And you know, we can't read books the way the women who don't have kids read books, because what made, like, I'm just using Fourth Wing as an example because it's such a popular book, or a popular series. But the thing that made it hard for me to make it a god tier level book was the level of whining and lack of communication and all of these things that make situations work. Okay. And I get it. All books have that lack of communication because you need to build up problems and have things that make your characters fall apart. As a mom, sometimes when my kids aren't getting along and all they've done all day is fight and fight and fight, and they can't seem to get along no matter how hard I try, it's hard to sit down and read a book. I have to listen to that in the book too. You just want to shut off that mom brain. My point is, I wanted to be able to be a voice and a perspective for other people out there who are older, who are moms, who understand where I'm coming from. I haven't run across anybody my age. But let's get into talking about all the books that I read in September. My husband picked most of the books. It was our anniversary, and I wanted to give him the opportunity to pick my books. And there's been books that he's been wanting me to read for a very long time. And so I decided we're going to make this happen. And you guys, I have to say, it was the funnest thing that I have done. We got to spend the whole month. I felt so connected to him. I mean, like I always do. He's like my best friend. He really is. But I felt so connected to him because I would read, and then we'd stop and we'd talk about where I was at in the book and my thoughts. And, you know, he got to talk about his favorite books with me. And it was just an amazing time. And even he was shocked. He wasn't expecting me to have the feelings towards certain books versus others. He kind of ranked all of the books on what he thought I would like the most versus what I wouldn't like. So I actually read all of these books in an order that he gave me, that he wanted me to read. And he wanted to save the ones that he thought I would really like more towards the end of the month. Also, I have to say, I read 11 books in September. For those of you who've been following me from the beginning, you'll know on average, I'm lucky if I make 6 books. I made 11. I am flabbergasted, which allowed me to get some of my books that I wanted to get in for the month also read. So it was really cool. Okay, first off, I have to say, most people, they saw September 1st as a summer's over. It is now officially fall. We're going to get into all the fall vibes. Okay, I'm not that way. Okay, for me, summer was always something that continued until the first day of school. When the first day of school happened, then and only then did it feel kind of like fall to me. And now as a homeschool mom, I kind of feel that exact same way. I had a whole week before fall officially started. So I was like, I'm taking advantage of this. I don't know why, but I didn't really get hardly any summary type books in all summer. I was just reading. Okay. I was just reading and letting my jar decide. So I was like, I'm going to get a summer book in. I'm going for it. So the first book I read was Beach Read by Emily Henry. I loved this book. Oh my gosh, you guys. It was such a cute, laid back story. I ended up rating this a 4-star, and I don't regret even a second of it. It was so incredibly good. You've got January and Augustus, okay? And they're like polar opposites. She is a fluffy romance writer style person. And then Augustus, he does like literary fiction. She ends up at this beach house where Augustus ends up being her neighbor. They actually have quite a bit in common. They're experiencing some writer's block. So they decide to switch roles in kind of like a funny ha-ha bet sort of thing, right? Like you write literary fiction, I'll write romance. And whoever's book sells, the other person has to endorse. And so it was just kind of a fun thing. And so it was just so cute. And they were just like polar opposites in personality, but at the same time, they kind of just fit together. Gave me all of the summer feels. I mean, do they do a lot of summary type things? Like, not really. I mean, the only really summary thing is it took place in the summer and they were at a beach house. It still gave me a nice, warm, summery type feeling anyways. So I loved it. And since I was there and I had a little bit of time, I had a couple days before our school started, I was like, I'm getting in and one more summer book. It's going to happen. So the next book I picked up and read was Wildfire. Okay, this is part of Maple Hills series by Hannah Grace, and book 1 is Iceberg. And this one I loved, you guys. It was so cute. And I ended up giving this one a 3.75 star rating. And I mean, that was just mainly because there was times in the book where honestly I did get a little bored. If you're not familiar with the Maple Hills series, it's basically about a hockey team that at a college in a town called Maple Hills. And so each book in the series is its own little standalone. And this one, he was a soft boy and so sweet, but also so insecure about himself and how to act around other people. And then you have her, and she is just a wildfire, you guys. She's just a firecracker, and she has a tendency to get herself into a lot of trouble. They get together really briefly, and then they end up going their separate ways. He never even finds out who she really is. And then the next thing you know, he's at a summer camp. She's at a summer camp. At the same summer camp, all of the sparks fly in this whole summer camp setting. And, I definitely got the vibe that this book had going on. And, there's this whole, they can't fraternize with each other, right? It's got to be all about the students. If you're found fraternizing, you're going to get fired. And he really needed the job. He really needed the money. And so he was trying to be really good. And then she was trying to change her life a little bit. She was taking the time at this camp to reflect on her life and try to reset and just do better. And so it kind of worked out for the both of them. They kind of got a chance to get to know each other and then really become friends. And then it just built from there. Again, it was really, really good. It's just, I found myself getting bored a few times, and that's why it only got a 3.75 star read. Okay. Then after that, summer was officially over. School started, homeschooling my boys. Mission Clockwork. I was super nervous about this one after having read The Exempt and everything. I'm going, I don't think I'm going to like this. And so the thought of reading this book, because in The Exempt, it reminded me so much of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, right? And the name of the main character guy is actually Modo. Get it? Like Quasimodo. And the way he's described, he looks exactly like Quasimodo. Okay. Now, from there, it kind of switches focus a little bit. Like, again, I get the vibes of The Hunchback of Notre Dame. However, it was like Hunchback of Notre Dame meets Sherlock Holmes. Okay, and then that's where it got kind of fun. I actually ended up giving this book a 3-star rating, and I was pleasantly surprised because again, it I liked it enough to wanna keep reading and find out what happens. It's really hard to explain, if you haven't read the book. But you have this guy, his name is Moto, and he has this ability to shapeshift. Okay, so he can turn himself into look like anybody that he wants. He's found as a kid and he's raised up to basically be trained to fight, to read. He's like really smart, very good at investigative work, things like that. And then he gets thrown into London. He has to make it on his own. Ends up kind of like Sherlock Holmes. He helps people solve cases. And then he ends up in this big conspiracy type like mystery thing that he has to solve. Children are going missing and he's trying to figure out what happened to them. And again, it's really hard to explain without giving major plots away. But I found myself really enjoying the mystery of it all. I mean, I didn't feel super invested in Moto. I didn't, there's a girl that he meets. Her name is Octavia, and he's crushing on her, right? But she doesn't know what he really looks like. There's that whole dynamic there. And they end up working together, and it was cute. But again, for me, it wasn't the little bit of romance in there. It wasn't Moto or Octavia that I was really drawn to. It was the mystery itself. And honestly, it was refreshing to read a mystery book. After that, I went straight into Stone Father. Now, this one, you guys, yeah. First off, it's something that I listen to. And so me and audiobooks don't have the best track record because I have a tendency I get easily distracted. But this was also a very small book. It was only like 3 hours to listen to it. And so I like busted it out in one day and it was all good. I ended up rating it 2 stars. It wasn't horrible. It bored me. I mean, it's not part of a series. It's just a little standalone book all on its own. I mean, like, I don't even know what else to say. It was boring, guys. I'm sorry. I think the coolest part about the whole book was that the voice actor for this audiobook is actually, I think, either the wife or the sister of the guy who wrote the book. So I thought that was kind of cool. It took forever for anything interesting to happen. It was just, I found myself toning out and then having to rewind and listen to certain things because I just like, oh, wait, huh? I mean, it just, nothing happened. Nothing happened. It was just a bunch of nothing, nothing, nothing until close to the end of the book. And then then things started picking up and things happened. But even then, I'm like, so then after that, I took a break from the books that my husband had picked for me, and I went into one of the books that I knew I wanted to read. The next book was Not Part of the Plan by Lucy Score. This is a Blue Moon series book. This is book 4, and it was really good. I gave it a 4-star. I mean, it didn't uber impress me. I was really excited get into Nikolai's story because I knew him from book 1. He's Summer's best friend, but he didn't have like a big role, so I didn't really know him very well. And then the main character, Emma, is Gia's sister, and Gia was the FMC of book 2. So I didn't feel like I really knew these 2 characters very well. And I think in a way it didn't resonate with me as much. I loved getting to see the Beautification Bureau again, although they had more of a low-key role in this as well. He's a photographer, he is an artist, and he is struggling after years and years of doing the same old, same old. He realizes that he's not enjoying his work anymore. His pictures aren't turning out the way that he wants them to. He's in a rut. So he decides to go to Blue Moon to kind of recharge his battery. So he's staying with Summer and Carter. And then you've got Emma, who moves to town to be with her sister and her dad, who also lives in Blue Moon. And she ends up taking over and running the brewery that the Pierce brothers had all thrown together. And so she kind of manages it and takes care of it. And she absolutely loves it. And she's decided Blue Moon's the home for her. But she's very methodical. She has to think and plan everything out. She's not out for looking for love or anything like that. For her, it was just, you know, I'm going to meet this kind of guy. He's going to meet these kind of standards. And that's the man I'm going to marry. And it's not going to be anybody else. It was nice to watch these two have all of their plans just completely thrown out of the window when they fall in love. After that, I really wanted to get into a fall feel vibe. And especially since how I didn't read many summer vibey books in summer, I was like, no, I'm getting some fall books and this is happening. And seeing as how I have recently found an author, Sarah Beth Durst. I read her Queens of Renthia series and absolutely loved them. In every single one of their books, it like shows, you know, this is the author of Spell Shop. This is the author of Spell Shop. So I went and I looked up Spell Shop and I found the book, and you guys, it was giving me some serious fall vibes. So that was the book that I read next, and that's this one. Such a fall vibes. And then purple pages, but just look at that. Oh, it's so cute. Look at the kitty on the stairs. 5-star. I kid you not. 5-star. I loved this book so much. I wasn't even 50 pages in it before I bought the audiobook and had my husband listen to it, and he loved it too. The main character girl in this book is blue. Okay, she's got sky blue skin and she's got dark blue hair. Okay. And it's described as being something very normal. And she was a librarian of this like humongous library that has a plethora of books. And I mean, like the way this library is described, it's so huge that they have different librarians that handle different floors of the library. And then like she never left the library. You guys, the best side character I think I've ever read. I read Night and the Moth, okay? And I absolutely loved the gargoyle there. Like, he was my favorite side character until I met Kaz. Kaz is a magical spider plant, okay? A spider plant that talks and moves, and I love him so much. And he was hilarious. The things that he would say, the things that he would do, the things that he would worry about. Oh my gosh, I just loved him so much. She was kind of partnered with him in this library, taking care of these books. But then this kind of revolution happens and the whole city just is on fire. The king is dead. She ends up having to escape. And she manages to take some of the books with her and goes back to her old hometown, which is a little out of the way island where she figured she could just, you know, hide away. Nobody would find her. She couldn't get in trouble for taking the books, even though she was trying to see it as she was just saving them. Once she gets there and she gets to her old cabin, so she kind of fixes it up and she realizes, you know what? I need to find a way to make some money to survive. She has this great idea that she's going to use the books from the magic library to help people around the island and also sell jams. And then, of course, there's her neighbor, and absolutely loved him. I mean, he is kind of shy and awkward. She's shy and awkward because she's been a librarian and has done nothing but talk to a spider plant for a really long time. And Kaz just like will watch these guys and be like, oh my gosh, he's trying to ask if he can stay for dinner. You guys you should just read it. I mean, it's definitely gives fall vibes, and it was very, very, very good book. And it had like mermaids and mer horses and flying cats and ghosts and dancing trees, and yeah, 5-star, so good. I cannot wait to read book 2. So then next, I went into another one of the books that my husband had picked for me. This one I was really worried about. It was called Battle World. First off, okay, everything that I thought I knew about this book when I was describing it in my September TBR, way off, way off. Whoo! Like, that ball is out of the park. It is gone. You're not finding it. That's how off I was. And I have to say, out of all the books that I read this month, this one was the most surprising. I ended up giving it a 3-star. Okay, now for me, that was surprising in and of itself because I was expecting this to be a 1-star, if even that. I thought it was going to be so bad that I wasn't going to want to rate it at all. I was that worried about it. I am not going to lie. And it pleasantly surprised me. It was really good. I was laughing a lot. There was a lot of hilarity to it. Actually enjoying it enough that I'm I'm gonna listen to book two. There's only two books. After the way that book one ended, it's like it's gonna keep bugging me until I get to read the second book and find out how it all ends. It's just gonna drive me up the wall. I need to know. And so basically you have this kid who ends up in this fight, which then causes him to be all Hunger Gamed taken, right? And goes because like basically these aliens have taken over the planet Earth, and they've taken over other planets too. And what they do is they kind of they take people in from like different planets, and they take them to this particular world. You get this symbiont gets put into your body, and this symbiont's kind of like another like a different kind of alien, right? It's stuck to your body, and it gives you certain kind of powers and abilities, and it's really interesting. It makes you stronger. This book really gave me video game vibes, okay? Because he gets in this the symbiote kind of, it gets infused with his body, and then like suddenly he can like blink and a screen will show up with his stats, like what level he is, just like you would in a video game, right? You got your items, you can see what items you have. There's certain items that once you earn them, you can take those and you can like upgrade things. And so he had to pick a weapon of choice, so like basically a class. And so he went with fist, kind of like a monk, right? That was what he chose to do. And so he ended up with these claw type gauntlet things for his hands. And then he ends up paired up with another two girls. One of them does spear, and the other one's kind of more of like a healer style, but she has these her symbiote can like break off pieces of itself and run around and like attack or be used for healing and stuff like that. So they end up giving her this nickname, Pudding, and I absolutely loved it. The banter between the three of them, right? But they're like in this party together, and they're called Team Something. They just basically run around like you would in a video game. You have to level up, you have to get better, right? And so that you have to earn points, earn money so that you can be able to buy upgrades for your gear, things like that. So the best way to do that is to complete quests that are given to you, and you get these quests in your stats and things like that. And so you would complete these quests, like you have to kill so many of these things out in the wild, or special quests, you got to do this and beat a boss and fight a boss. And as you would beat things, you would get a chest that would have certain items in it and certain upgrades. And again, it just very video game vibey, and I was here for it. It was actually really good. And he could talk to his symbiote. His symbiote would call him Pink Beast, right? Because human, pink skin, right? He's like, Pink Beast, and so you just like talk to him, and he's like, can we eat your humans? And he's like, no, you can't do that. They're our teammates. We need them. And he's like, Pink Beasts they're soft, and again, how they would get powered up is they would eat other symbiotes in order to get stronger skills. His name was Clint, by the way. I don't want to get too much more into it. I don't want to give any more away. It was actually surprisingly a good book, and I enjoyed it. And considering it was an audiobook, I actually did not get too lost in it. I actually had fun. I'm kind of an artist. I love to draw and things like that. But, between school, doing 2 YouTube channels, trying to get books in to read, also training for a marathon, I just don't get much time to do other crafts and things like that. So this afforded me the ability to listen, but also to get to sit down and just like draw and color and do some of my art. And it was very relaxing and fun. After that, I was feeling pretty good, you guys. I was feeling pretty good. And so then I went and turned around and listened to the book Undone. And this one I had high hopes for. I was actually very disappointed in this book and ended up only giving it a 2-star rating. It's all about this woman who was a djinn, and she did some things and ended up getting punished for it. And she was sent down to Earth to basically just die. She ends up taking the form of a human, becoming a human. But because she's still djinn, right? And she still has like she's not really a I mean, she's a human. She's full human, but she still has these like some power in her that was basically killing her. And so in order to survive, there are these people out there that they're kind of like they're called wardens, and they have this some magic. They have magic to them. They have the ability to manipulate, like, think Avatar, think airbenders and firebenders and earthbenders. Okay, they kind of have this ability to mess with the elements, and so they're kind of like weather wardens basically. And so in order for her to survive, she has to siphon some of this magic off of the wardens, because they're the only ones that have the kind of power that she can siphon from them and not kill them. She basically she ends up joining their organization to kind of help them. You know, it had the potential to be a really good book. I liked how it started. I liked how I like where they were going with it, but that's not where they went with it at all. And I was like, what? What? Okay, first off, think Attack on Titan, in the sense that whatever you do not like any of the characters in the book, because you don't know if they're going to survive. Okay, there was a lot of death, a lot of mayhem, stuff that happened that just, in my opinion, made absolutely no freaking sense. Like, you have great characters, a great start to the world and everything, but the story itself is just like, why did you do that? Like, this had the potential to be so much better than that. You know, it was kind of a hit or a miss. Ended up being a miss. And from there, I moved on to His Majesty's Dragon, and I loved this book. I ended up giving this book a 4-star. I absolutely loved it, and I'm so surprised. It really has like practically zero romance, but you guys, it has dragons. It's a dragon riding book, and what I loved about it is all the dragon writing books I've read, aside from Aragon, most of them had a big center on romance and some about the dragons, right? This one I loved because you take the romance aspect out of it, and it was all just about dragons and dragon riding. I loved how the dragons had a personality and they could talk just like humans could. Like, everybody could hear them, right? It wasn't like something that you could only hear in your mind and nobody else can hear, right? They just talked like regular humans did. This book took place in the Napoleon Wars era, right? And he's working with England, and he's part of the Navy, and they end up taking over this ship, and this ship happens to have an egg on it. They're way, way out into the sea. Their medic knows a little bit about dragons and eggs and stuff, and he told them that it was going to hatch before they got to shore. So everybody's putting their name in this drawing to see who was going to end up being the dragon's rider, because they knew once that happened, they were no longer going to get to be a part of the Navy. They were going to have to leave, and they were going to have to go join the Corps, which is, you know, basically like the Flyers, right? They're the but instead of airplanes, you have dragons. It just so happens that Lawrence, the MMC, who is also the captain of this ship, becoming friends with this hatched dragon, which he is named Tamaray, which interestingly enough, well, not interestingly enough, but the name of this book series is Tamaray. He ends up having to leave the Navy, which kind of stinks, because dragon riders, the corps, is a very hard life. Don't expect to get married, have a family, things like that, because you're never in the same place once. You're always gone. You're always on the move. It's just, you can't really have a home life. So if you are in the corps, you're just in the corps, right? That's it. There's no going back. Him and Tamaray developed this amazing relationship between the two of them, and it was just the cutest thing. And it just goes through their journey. They end up joining the corps. They have to train. They have to learn to work with other dragons, and there's other crew, right, that kind of has to help with that as well. And so, because he's been Navy his whole life, it was a new learning curve for him. And so pretty much a lot of this book was just about the two of them, their friendship, the building of the story, training to be part of the corps, and it was difficult a little bit too, right? Because you have those Air Force Navy type stereotypes in this book too, right? Only, the Air Force was dragons, but still he was Navy. And so people didn't really give him a lot of respect in the beginning because, he was Navy. this series is my husband's all-time favorite. And so I'm just glad that I liked it and that we were able to talk about it and stuff. I mean, the only reason why it wasn't a 5-star for me is the romance aspect. Okay, I'm a romancy girl. I'm always going to be a romancy girl. And the romance is what sets books apart, right? So, but again, still very good book. 4-star. Absolutely loved it. And I'm looking forward to book 2. And then the last book that my husband had picked for me was Furies of the Cauldron. And again, another book that surprised me. Ended up being really good. I gave it a 4-star. And this one, there was so many different points of view. In fact, I didn't really feel like there was a main character at all in this book. It went into different perspectives, even into the perspective of some of the bad people. And I mean, that was my biggest hiccup about it, though, is I'm not a huge fan of multiple POVs. I can handle a couple, right? A couple POVs, no big deal, but so many of them, no thank you. And this book reminded me of the Throne of Glass series because there was just so many multiple POVs. One of the main character guys, he's somebody who doesn't have any power, right? In a world where everybody has what's called Furies, and they're kind of like little spirits in a way that help you. They give you abilities to manipulate wind, earth, fire, right? Water. Despite him having no Furies, this kid, 15 years old, manages to basically save his entire region where he's at, where a bunch of this stuff is happening. And it's all accidental, which is what makes it so hilarious. It's not like he's like just going out, being brave, like making all these plans. No, like just accidental things just keep happening to this poor kid that end up setting up for all of this stuff that end up helping along the way. And his nativity about it, it cracks me up. It cracks me up. And it had lots of like magic and fighting and battles, and you kind of get that vibe like you do off the Throne of Glass, where at one point you're like, there's no way people can survive this, right? I was getting like Throne of Glass, Lord of the Ring vibes. There's no way that the odds are stacked against them. Everybody's dying. Like bad things are happening, and you're just going, what's going to happen? There's no way they can survive this. And like bad thing after bad thing after bad thing happens, and then like something good would happen, and you think, oh, okay, cool, they stand a chance, and then nope, back to crap. And you're just like, oh my gosh, really? And it was like so suspenseful and stuff. There is a book 2, and you will be guaranteed that I will be picking up that book and reading it, because Furies of Cauldron was so good and I absolutely loved it. And it had out of all the books that my husband had picked for me, this one had the most romance in it. And I loved that. Again, it wasn't the strongest plot. So, I mean, maybe it wasn't like the coolest. I know some people talked about how they didn't feel connected to the romance. It felt kind of forced. I didn't see a problem with it at all. Who doesn't believe in a little love at first sight, right? I mean, I personally loved it. By that point, I had a couple days left until the end of September. So then I read King of Pride by Anna Wong. This is the Kings of Sin series, and this is book 2. This book for me was I'd say this book was a 4.5 star read for me. Absolutely loved it. It was so good. I don't think it was as good as the first book, in my opinion. I feel like the trope that they kind of did with this book has been there, done that a lot. And I think that kind of pulled me out of the enjoyment a little bit, because it just feel like it was a little redundant. We do this a lot, right? This was he's the billionaire, he's got a family, he's a corporate leader, and there's certain things about his life that are expected of him, and he ends up falling for the bartender girl, right? She's not really doing anything with her life. She wants to be an author, but she hasn't even put out her first book yet, which, by the way, I related to Isabel a lot in this book, because I am that way too. I'm in the process of writing a book. And in fact, honestly, you could say my book is ready to be sent out to people to work on trying to get it published, but I'm just having a hard time letting it go for all the same types of insecurities that Isabella has. Her and Kai end up getting kind of together. He's really good friends with the main character guy from book one, and she is best friends with Vivian, which was the FMC of book one. And so, they're kind of put together because their best friends are married. And then she ends up working at a bar that he's a member of, and they have a very strong no fraternization rule. Like, she'll lose her job if they're found having any relationship. And so they're not supposed to be together, but then they end up sneaking around. They kind of have a secret relationship, trying to not get found out. This trope has been done so many times in billionaire romances. His family doesn't approve because she's not worthy of him, and he needs to marry an heiress, and that's what his life's got to be. It's all decided for him. That was my only problem with this book, is it was just so done. It's been done a million times. And so I was just a little meh. 4.5 stars, still a very good book. I went up and I picked book 3. And you guys, I'm really looking forward to reading book 3 because it sounds so good. I'm not going to get much into it because this is about the books I've already read, but I can't wait to get into book 3. But yeah, that closes out all of the books that I read in September. I just love talking about books, and I had a lot of them to get through. So if you stayed with me until the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys. If you guys could hit a like on this video, I would really appreciate it. It would help me out. It'd help get my videos out there to more people, and I would just greatly appreciate that. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.